Right before we get into this video, just note this is a theory video, not a leak or something like that, so make sure to watch the video all the way through and then you can comment with your own theory based off of what I say in this video, or just your own theory period. But here we go, let's just immediately jump into it. So, way back almost 2.5 years ago, when Lucian mid was kind of a thing in pro play, I kind of did a video about like AP Lucian and the concept of why like maybe an AP version of Lucian could exist one day. And this is coming on the idea of the traditional or non-traditional marksman, I should say, that August Browning is in the middle of making for the end of this year. And the idea back then when making that video was like, Lucian's kind of thing is spellcasting and auto-attacking, right? Like, you have the more traditional DPS AD carries that don't really, use their spells all that often, and then you have the more maybe bursty AD carries that either build lethality and stuff that are all about, like, say, Varus with this Q arrow, but not really auto-attacking all that much, right? Like, there's a certain profile for those champions, but Lucian's kind of that in-between. He wants to spellcast and he wants to auto-attack, to the point that's how his passive works. So back then the idea was like, well, what if there was like an AP version of Lucian instead in the mid lane? Because maybe part of the reason Lucian mid was a thing was because they wanted more DPS, but maybe they also wanted magic DPS in case people started countering the double AD carry comps with like tanks and stuff like that. Flash forward to recently when people were coming to like August's chat and talk about, hey, I'm super hyped and excited for your ADC champion. He makes it kind of a thing to always be like non-traditional marksman and use the term marksman specifically. And I think the reason is the champion he's making is not going to necessarily be a bottom lane champion like kind of traditional AD carries. You kind of automatically assume like they go bottom lane. Think of it like Graves' jungle, right? Like he's a marksman, but he's a jungler. That's why I got the season 7 Victorious skin for the jungle role, not because he was an ADC, right? The last ADC technically that got a Victorious skin was Sivir back in season 5 at this point. Graves is a marksman, but he's a jungler. He's classified as like a jungle marksman. So maybe this is like a marksman for another role. Kind of the same way the client or the wiki kind of classifies Azir as a marksman, even though you don't really see him in the bottom lane, right? And I bring this up because I think this could be what we're seeing or going to see from this new August champion, and why he always refers to it as a non-traditional marksman champion. That, and if you look at Pyke, for example, right? The thing Pyke, I think, solved, even if it's not perfectly balanced, I think the idea that he solved was if you're an assassin player and you get autofilled to support, you can still pick Pyke and still do assassin things. And even the way the gold sharing works, you give the gold to people that get assists and stuff, full gold and stuff like that. So you can take gold, you can take kills, you can build lethality, you can still do assassin stuff without the frustration of being autofilled. And so maybe this champion is going to be like kind of another one of those where it solves this thing where it's like, hey, if you get filled in the mid lane, but you were like an AD carry player, you can play this champion instead of maybe being frustrated about being auto-filled or not really having a champion that you can really play. Like, sure, there's Corki, but Corki's not really like a DPS champion. Well, he can be DPS, but he's also kind of more of a burst champion, a mixed damage champion. This is more of the idea of like a more DPS AP champion, not named Azir and Cassiopeia and stuff like that, because even though they do have DPS, I'm thinking more of like I said, an AD carry or a marksman, and that's what I think this is gonna kind of be. That's kind of my theory around this. And I use the assassin autofill example, but to use another example, let's say we're on the same team in ranked. I get Jinx first pick because we're on blue side, and that's just how it works. The enemy team decides to lock in Malphite Rammus immediately afterwards, and your last pick as the mid laner, and you're like, hey, because they have tanks, I'm going to want something that's going to be able to DPS through these things. And either because maybe you don't play things like Cassio and Azir and stuff, or just because you want something with more consistent output, you could pick this champion as your last pick to be able to kind of deal with those champions, even though I'm going to get probably bodied, shut down, and kind of irrelevant in the game with a pick like that. Like, on a side note, that's kind of why I invented my own like on-hit Jinx build. I had to go against that once, and it was not very fun. And so I think what we're going to see maybe from both this champion and some future champions is kind of the, I don't know what to call the space that Pyke kind of fills with that idea, but maybe we'll see more champions like that. And that's why August like constantly refers to it as a non-traditional marksman, is because it's kind of the idea that, yeah, it is going to be a marksman, but not a marksman in the way you've seen it. So like AP marksman is one of the first things that come to my mind when I think about that, right? Like an AP Lucian or something like that. Now, it's not going to be probably AP Lucian. Like basically it's Lucian, but his kit's all tuned to magic damage. Don't get me wrong, but I think something like that. Probably the kit's not going to function specifically the way we think it's going to function either, like traditionally. It's going to probably be some weird spells and stuff like that. I know there's a leak out. I don't really report on leaks because they can be very false or very misleading, so I'm not going to really talk about any of those. If you want to see leaks, you could probably find them somewhere. But at the same time, that's my theory for what the new marksman champion is going to be like. But in the comment section down below, I kind of want to hear your own thoughts about a non-traditional marksman, what that term possibly means, and what maybe you think of for like a kit and stuff like that. It is being made by August Browning. routing, right? The guy that made, like I said, Jin, Jinx, Vi, Echo, Gnar, the Kill Morgana reworks, the Rengar revert, stuff like that. So think that space when you're thinking of what you're going to talk about in the comment section down below. But thank you so much for watching this video. Make sure to like, comment, subscribe, hit that bell notification, the actual subscribe button. But I don't know which video will be next, because life can have a lot of kinks. So until next time, take care. GG, get jinxed. Thank you for watching, and enjoy pizza responsibly.